Oakland means to me home, first of all. I've lived here for 18 years now, so it feels solidly like home. Raising my son here, lots of good friends, opened a store here, second store, run a nonprofit, all sorts of things. So Oakland also means to me all the people that I've met. I have to say that of the many places I've been throughout the U.S., it's one of the most dynamic places I've been. Culturally, I think as far as the diversity, ethnically, racially, age-wise, there's a dynamism in history that is woven throughout the fabric of Oakland that makes it a really unique and exciting place to be. It also has a lot of challenges that come with it, but I think it's proving to be a model city in a lot of ways. Downtown Oakland is booming. It's very exciting, and it's also under capitalism, also comes with all sorts of problems as far as how development moves forward. You know, right now we just had our window smashed from robbery just last week for the second time in 6 weeks. So we're feeling that people are experiencing a lot of desperation. A lot of that's due to displacement and the pressures upon them financially as far as housing, finding meaningful jobs. You know, certainly under the Trump administration as well, there's lots of folks who are feeling, I think, in more precarious situations. So I think it's a very challenging moment in downtown. It's kind of, a lot of it gets concentrated here because it's a center of commerce, center of cultural work. There's a lot of traffic that flows through, whether that's on the BART or buses. A lot of that's by design, but it also ends up kind of focusing a lot of energy and stress for some people. So I think while there's a lot of exciting things happening, that's actually often kind of sometimes the unseen side of progress, is that there can be displacement. There are people who end up being on the other side of the equation, the short end of the stick, for others to step ahead. So I think we're seeing that in Oakland right now as well. My vision of downtown Oakland is being a really robust and inclusive place for just a wide range of people who've called Oakland home for a long time. And of course, it would be inviting to newcomers, but also newcomers that would really understand the local history, traditions, spirit, and culture. So I think all those folks coming together to really contribute to uplift and really determining collaboratively a vision for Oakland is something that I'd like to see, and that's kind of my notion of what an ideal would be. Not that I'm going to prescribe that, but it's some future where it's highly participatory and is kind of including this kind of equity framework where people feel like they have a say in not just participating but prospering in what Oakland will look like in the next phase. Equity means a fair and just inclusion in society, and so that would be, you know, for the local framework here in Oakland, people feel like they have not just a seat at the table, but that their agency, their creativity, their intellect, their passions are given space to flourish. They have the resources to do that, and that the individuality that we each bring and also our different and shared histories really kind of can contribute to uplift and make sure that people can really prosper and participate in their best way. To really move towards greater social, racial, and economic justice in Oakland, there needs to be much more participatory decision-making. And I think there also needs to be greater representation from the diverse groups that make up Oakland in leadership, in addition to the processes. So, you know, I think that's always a challenge in governance. And I think that's crucial in policy making as well. I've always been inspired by this book by Makani Themba Nixon called Making Policy, Making Change. And for me at the time when I read it as a teenager, it was really crucial because it really centers the role of local communities, and particularly communities of color, historically underserved communities, in driving policy from the grassroots. with the notion that those are the policies that make the most sense for folks, and really will end up really taking root and making transformational change. Up to that point, I always thought of policy as something that like the government officials make, and we kind of like figure out how we fit into it, and we don't break the law. So I think that really change on racial, economic, and social justice has to really be driven from local communities in a very base building, door knocking sort of way. And I think there's lots of policies that could be implemented more strongly in Oakland around affordable housing, around rent control, looking at forms of rent stabilization for locally owned businesses, art galleries, nonprofits, and that sort of thing, because I think that's a challenge also that we're starting to see, in addition to people being displaced in their housing, is also the character and fiber of the downtown is shifting and will continue to shift as larger corporations come in and displace kind of homegrown businesses as we've seen in San Francisco and other cities.